It is the largest show of its kind on the African continent, and I'm sure highly appreciated by both customers and suppliers as a real good way of bringing us all together. Certainly, the fact that we can't participate makes the cancellation of the 2020 edition all the more disappointing. And apparently, the digital booklet will be sent out daily with the latest products from our exhibitors. And Electromoney have asked me to say, well, let's just stay connected, really going forward. The other hat I'm wearing today is, as the moderator, is the SAIMC aspects of this and what we are doing as an organization in terms of trying to ensure that we are ready as a country, as suppliers, as academia, all putting together as the SAIMC and what we are doing as an organization to get us ready for the fourth industrial revolution and the potential benefits that will be coming with that. So, as I said, I want to give you some idea of what we're doing. On the international front, we are a member of the Automation Federation Board, where there are more than 130 countries working on promoting automation engineering. We're also working with the German Chamber of Commerce on implementing strategies for 4IR via the Supplier Advisory Council. And to give you some idea what that is, it's a new leg of the SAIMC. It used to be the IIG, and we just felt that it was really important as a single channel of influence that we joined up with the SAIMC, and that's taken us a couple of years to get done. But I can say that that's been done this year with the SAIMC, and the Supplier Advisory Council is the suppliers aspect, which then are offering guidance to the industry in terms of what SAIMC are doing for their members. And I encourage anybody who's got a company to come and join that Supplier Advisory Council, and I'm sure you can talk to Johan Martins about that. From a standards perspective, we are working on SABS technical committees to adopt standards to the South African environment. On an education perspective, this is a lot of work going in here. Obviously, from a technical talks perspective, the Supplier Advisory Council keeps current practitioners up to date with various webinars and presentations. The SAIMC also sponsor the first Tech Challenge, which is a robotics challenge, which is really important in getting the sort of technical thinking around the skills required. We're also establishing a BBE skills fund, which will allow suppliers and customers to put that money back into the industry, where it'll be used certainly better than the way it's been run now, I'm assuming. And working with the MICT CETA on various occupational and directed learning programs. And as we said before, we're establishing an enterprise and supplier development fund as part of that BE skills fund. So we also deal with professional registration, and they're working with a team to define the discipline-specific training guideline for those interested in registering with EXA in factory automation, process automation, and automation devices. And again, register as an enterprise integration practitioner, especially a special category with the EXA, also for practitioners in the MOM, which is Manufacturing Operations Management space. So certainly I urge, as an individual, anybody in this in the industry to join the SAIMC as a member. We're doing an enormous amount of work to try and make this a relevant industry for ourselves, and every member helps us get weight when we are talking to government. And again, if you're a supplier of goods or equipment, join the SAC and help us formulate influence policy in order to ensure that we as a country do not miss out on the opportunities offered in this new revolution. Right, so that's the advertising side done. Let's get on to the topic. The topic itself is preparing South African business for the fourth industrial revolution and getting the business and technical frameworks right to ensure success. We've been speaking about this for a long time, and I think the difference today is that we are not bringing you the usual supplier stories of potential, but it's slanted very much towards the actual digital strategy being implemented and being benefited from by a large company, namely Sasol. And I think that's the difference today, and I'm really looking forward to it. So let's just get straight into the panelists and introduce them. First of all, we have Anne-Marie van Coller. I think anybody who's been in the SAIMC or was a member knows her very well. She's a specialist at Sasol on analytics and insights at Sasol, and is also an executive director at the SAIMC. And to give you some idea of her background, she's a professionally registered engineer with 13 years experience. She's on the board and following her term as the president. In fact, I think it's the first female president, if I'm correct, of the SAIMC. And in her professional career, she started as a controls engineer with Sasol on the plant. And following her time in maintenance management, she's now working in data engineering focused on enabling digital functions within the organization based on the availability of quality data. So she's got a lot of background in helping us to get to where we are today. And again, Oratile Samatle, digital lead at Sasol Chemicals, and also an executive director of the SAIMC. And he's backed up by Dr. Stefan Stradum, who's vice president of digital at Sasol. He'll be helping Oratile put that presentation together, or in fact have slightly different ones. Is managing director and sales director Africa for Pepperell and Fuchs, and also an executive director at the SAIMC. Mark has been with Pepperell and Fuchs since 1989 and is also the co-founder of Pepperell and Fuchs Belgium. In 1997, he transferred to the headquarters in Mannheim, Germany, and part of director of global account management. And in 2005, he became sales director in process automation, looking at Western Europe and Africa. And then, because he liked the weather so much, the great wine and the good steaks, he relocated to SA in 2014 to become the managing director and sales director of Pepperell and Fuchs Africa. He also heads up 2 working groups on an Industry 4 for the Society for the SAIMC, and also the German Chamber of Commerce and Industries. And also been very active in the Fieldcom group for almost 14 years, and is the regional manager for Africa since 2016. He's also, as I said, on the board of the SAIMC, and he's also served as the chairperson of the Industrial Information IIG in those days in 2018. And for several years, he was vice president of the EU Chamber of Commerce and Industry for Southern Africa. So I'm looking forward to Mark's presentation. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into their presentations, and the order will be Mark to talk first, Stefan second, Oratile third, and Anne-Marie fourth. So I will now step away. Please bang your questions up on the Q&A platform, and hopefully we'll be able to address those at the end. We will not be taking questions, obviously, between the presentations, but certainly please put your Q&A up there, and we will try and answer them at the beginning. So over to you, Mark van Pelt.
Thank you, Dave, for your warm introduction, and a very warm welcome to all the participants online. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mark van Pelt. As you might hear from my accent, I'm a Belgian national working in South Africa for a German family-owned company called Pepperell and Fuchs. We are a key supplier in the sensor industry, and as such also actively involved in the implementation of the 4th Industrial Revolution and Industry 4 in particular. Today, I will give you in about 10 minutes an overview of where the world is going and how South Africa is adopting to the 4th Industrial Revolution. And I would like to start with a bit of a general overview, and I'm sure that all of you have seen already a lot of versions on what the 4th Industrial Revolution is about. I think what Deloitte made in this representation is quite condensed and gives a very good overview on what the Internet of Things, the input of data and people and services in that whole network is. So everything is going smart. The whole world is going through a digital transformation, and we at the SAIMC are particularly looking in detail to what we call Industry 4.0, or let's call it, in other words, the industrial part of the fourth industrial revolution, which goes together with the implementation of cyber physical systems into a factory environment. And then we typically talk about Industry 4.0. Now, the world is going digital. We all know that. You can see that every day if you use your smartphone. I think that's the best example of what going digital is about. The question is, how is Africa and how is South Africa going to adopt to that whole evolution? And what you can see here is a very, very brief summary, which I need to be in 10 minutes time frame, from the World Economic Forum, and basically talking about the continent, the challenge that that Africa as a continent, as a whole continent, is getting is that the average age of the people in this continent is going to be on the lower level, meaning by 2070, Africa will be the continent with the largest population of people under the age of 25 years. And that is absolutely going to be a challenging thing, because the educational systems around Africa need to adopt to that. The approach in how to get people on a job needs to change, and automation. And today we are talking around automation should offer benefits to make this happen. And at the end of the day, a lot of opportunities are offered on the African continent. It is a matter of leapfrogging, and I think that's kind of a key word for what needs to happen in the very near future. And talking about that leapfrogging and understanding where also South Africa needs to go, President Ramaphosa installed in April 2019 the so-called Presidential Advisory Commission on the Fourth Industrial Revolution, PC4IR as they call it in short. The president obviously is the chair of that committee. The vice chair is the vice chancellor of the University of Johannesburg, Professor Chilizi Marwala, who worked together with a team of about 30 commissioners in a wide variety of topics to come with a summary report to be presented in March 2020. That report is there, is on the table, has been presented not in March, but in the beginning of August to President Ramaphosa, and is now going to cabinet for further evaluation and implementation. I just want to give you a quick overview on what the report is about. And here you see 7 domains in which activities, in which further deployment needs to take part. I'm not going to go through all the topics that you see on front of you, but I think it is also important to mention, and that's the last bullet point, is that the government is currently in the process of installing a so-called 4IR Strategy Implementation Coordination Council that is going to interact with the private and the public sector, with players in education and many other stakeholders in the South African society. We as the SAIMC obviously want to sit in the first row of that whole discussion platform and make sure that automation as we see it, as we perceive it, is taking an important place in that whole discussion. Now, there is a 200-page report with all the details on the bullet points that you see here. I have been going through that report, and it's quite exciting to see what Prof. Marwala and his team has been done, an outstanding job. The implementation is now going to be the key issue to make this happen to the benefit of South Africa. And in that context, I want to address two specific areas where I personally, and I think I may speak for my colleagues at the SAIMC as well, where we believe that there are two bottlenecks, two critical domains in South Africa where we need to pay some extra attention on. And I'm not saying that the other points are not important, they absolutely are, but for the sake of time, I want to focus on those 2 points. And the first one is invest in human capital. Human capital, at the end of the day, is the cornerstone of making these things happen. It's not about robots, it's not about automation, it's about people. And we need to invest in people. And these slides will be made available afterwards if you want to read through all the details. But the message that is given here is that we urgently need to start skilling, reskilling and upskilling people in South Africa to make sure that the knowledge base we have available are in line with the expectations of the industrial investments of tomorrow. Many companies are still planning to invest in South Africa, but at the end of the day, it is the human part of the sector that needs to make sure that we translate these investments in tangible actions. The other domain I want to address is the internet, the 4IR infrastructure, and that goes from your wired internet, your fiber connections, your international and in the sea connection between other continents, via cybersecurity, and whole different domains are covered here as well. Where I want to focus on for a very few moments is the wireless part of the internet, the so-called last mile, as it is called in an industrial environment, and that is 5G. Why is 5G critical for the future and the industrial implementation of the 4IR? You need to know that about 2 years ago in Germany, a new society, a new technology organization started called 5G ACIA. ACIA stands for Alliance for Connected Industries and Automation. And they have set forward what 5G is going to be about. 5G is not about your phone being able to download your movies even faster than before. Yes, that obviously also is going to be possible, but 5G in an industrial environment is more about your machine type of communication, where robots will talk to robots, where people will communicate with robots, where there is machine-to-machine communication in a manufacturing environment. And 5G ACIA has put forward some very stringent regulations on what 5G needs to do in an industrial environment. And not that I'm going to go in all to the details here. This is one of this is an extract of their white paper that you can find on their website on what 5G is going to mean in an industrial environment. So it's about robots talking to robots, robots communicating with production line, and even being implemented into the supply chain process, allowing that a factory environment, as you can see on the right-hand side of this slide, to deal with supply management issues and to do delivery management as well, and to make sure that all the steps in between are as digitized or digitalized as possible. Now, I can say a lot about that, but there is a very nice video available on the new share I need to do here on the internet that I would like to share with you. And that video is basically giving a very good summary on...
Welcome to a new era in industrial production. Welcome to 5G ACIA. What will factories look like in the age of the industrial Internet of Things? 5G makes the answer tangible. 5G will play a key role in delivering entirely new levels of flexibility, versatility, productivity, and efficiency. Let's look at 4 areas: logistics, factory automation, human-machine collaboration, and process automation. 5G campus networks provide the connectivity needed for new services and automation technology. They enable devices both inside and outside a factory to communicate and collaborate directly. For example, a truck can not only notify the devices inside a factory of its imminent arrival, but also conduct the handover seamlessly. Logistics processes can be adapted and optimized within milliseconds and with unprecedented precision. 5G will enable URLLC, that is to say, ultra-reliable, low-latency machine-to-machine communication. In our example, goods from the truck can automatically be picked up and transferred to a factory train. Within the factory's 5G network, new technological capabilities such as network slicing, closed loops, and edge cloud computing will pave the way for Industry 4.0. Cameras can automatically check the quality of inbound goods, and data is exchanged between multiple micro-networks. These edge clouds can monitor and manage factory equipment with remarkable speed and accuracy. If AGVs navigating the factory floor encounter obstacles, they can warn other mobile devices. Each edge cloud can reliably detect equipment malfunctions and rapidly identify ways to resolve the problem. During a repair, the edge cloud temporarily transfers production tasks to a neighboring robot cell, keeping disruptions to a minimum. "5G will also take human-machine interaction to a new level. For instance, it can give workers access to augmented reality for maintenance and troubleshooting. A remote expert can provide instructions directly via an AR headset. "5G will also open up a new era for process industries. For instance, via massive machine-type communication. During fractioning, multiple sensors measure defined parameters and send corresponding information to devices throughout the factory. This allows far greater efficiency at all times and on many levels. 5G has immense potential in process industries and beyond. It will enable seamless vertical and horizontal integration across the value chain in the automation pyramid. 5G will raise industrial production to the next level. Make the most of 5G for your business by becoming a member of 5G ACIA. Visit us at 5G-ACIA.org for more information.
I think we can all agree on the fact that 5G is going to be also critical in the environment that we are going to work in the future. Without the backbone and without knowledgeable people, and that's the educational part that I wanted to focus on, it's going to be very difficult, and that's where South Africa needs to be focusing on quite urgently to deal with those two matters, a part of all the other elements that are mentioned in the presidential report. There are, to close off my session, a lot of opportunities for South African companies. South Africa has the potential to become again a global player, to become the cornerstone of technology in an African context for the African continent. But we need to get our act together. As I always say, the train has left the station. It's a matter of how do we get on that train that already left the station. I thank you very much for your attention, and later on after the sessions, I'll be available to take some questions if you have some. Thank you.
Mark, thank you very much. I think that was a very succinct and important presentation, and just your takeaway there, certainly it's all about people, and the train has left. I think the fight going around 5G will sort itself out. But I'm really glad to see that both the government is taking this thing quite seriously, because if we don't, we will, the difference between ourselves and the European and the advanced industries and advanced nations will simply widen the gap, and we will become less competitive. We don't even have a choice at this stage, but to be engaged at the highest levels and through the value chain to make sure this happens, and right the way down to production environments. I think I absolutely agree with you there, and it's good to see that the SAIMC has taken this extremely seriously, and we all take this very seriously. So let's move on to the next person, which is Stefan, who's head of VP of Digital at Sasol. And Stefan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dave. So guys, I'd like to position something to you in the spirit of getting value out of stuff. So I hope that from the information that we will be sharing today is that you will get some value out of this, if at least it is to say that we've made you look differently at some of the things that we are going to be sharing with you. And so I want to share my screen. Right, you should be able to see it. Right, guys, so we are going to go through the next slides very, very quickly because we have some time to catch up, and we also want to provide you with some opportunity to ask questions. So we'll give you a bit of an overview of what have we done with digital at Sasol. How are we implementing it, and an example of a use case that we would like to share with you. So to very quickly jump into it is to share a bit of a story with you. So in one of my previous jobs, I was a global key account manager for one of the really big companies that Sasol serves in the globe. And the CEO of this company said to me, if you as Sasol don't change the way that you do business with us, you will soon become irrelevant as a supplier to us. And that is a message that no supplier would like to hear, but probably should hear from time to time to optimize the way that we do business with our customers. In 2017, our CEO was also at the Davos World Economic Forum meeting, and he was asked, what is Sasol's digital strategy? And he said, we'll get back to you. So we formulated the digital strategy. We've been on that journey since the end of 2016, when we started with customer journey optimization. And for us, digital is a must, like the headline says there, rather than an option. And it is driven from a whole number of different areas. So technology, competitor adoption, cost, growth potential, employee focus. And as we go through the next few slides, it will give you an indication of how we focus on each of these specific areas. So the picture I want you to focus on is the one right in the middle, which is the framework in how we implement digital at Sasol. Right in the middle is the agile way of working. So we've adopted that in Sasol as the most suitable way of working in terms of executing digital projects. It's very important for us on the right-hand side to say create a step change in customer experience. So that's where it all starts, customer-backed design. We do put a lot of effort in developing our digital capabilities, and we are focused on creating business value. And here we're talking about financial value, we're talking about efficiency of process and people, as well as customer experience. I'd like to focus on this component, which tells you the components of our digital sustainable transformation. So we speak about value, innovation, people and culture, analytics, that Anna-Marie will talk about a bit more, strategy, customer experience, organizational alignment, data, and agility. And the focus that we have in terms of our skills development, and this is, I think, speaking to the fourth industrial revolution and the impact on jobs. Accenture said in one of their reports that by doubling the pace at which workforces acquire relevant skills, we can reduce the impact of automation and fourth industrial revolution on jobs from 35% to 14% in terms of current jobs. And you can see here in the icon depicting the different components in which we train our people to prepare our workforce for the challenges of the fourth industrial revolution. So this is very quick. I'd like to hand over to Oratile to go to just take us through the next 2 slides. Thanks, Oratile.
Thank you, Stefan. Your sound wasn't great there. We need that 5G network. Just moving along, Stefan, thank you. I think from your takeout, certainly from yours, is it's important for businesses, and when we say businesses, not suppliers, for customers to be taking this thing quite seriously. As you said, if you don't take this thing seriously, you're going to become irrelevant, especially as a global supplier in large value chains. I think all the technology is available. Customers need to be adopting the digital strategy, and I think that's critical. So I'm looking forward to Oratile's presentation. So Oratile, take it away.
Thank you, Stefan. I think, colleagues, my name is Oratile, as Stefan has said. I think just to take off from where Stefan has left, is that our digital disruption was more external than internal. So we did not necessarily just wake up one day and said we want to be digital. Our customers, in fact, demanded that from us. As we can see in this graph, when we started, after getting a lot of feedback from our customers, we really need to kind of look on what is happening internally. So what we were powerfully good at was to produce high quality products. And the surveys and really digging deep into the analytics told us that's not enough. What really customers wanted was the right product at the right time in the right place. And we could only comply with the first portion, which is the right product. So that simply means from a chemical processing technology, we were very strong. But in terms of making sure that we getting that product across the globe to our right customer as quickly as we can and at the rate at which that customer requires the product, we were not very, very good there. And that's actually a fundamental issue across a lot of traditional organizations. A lot of traditional organizations will focus on product quality, and we realize, especially now, that in itself, it's not enough. And it really kicked off on our strategy, which is a lot more customer obsessed or customer centered type of strategy that informs every single thing we do. So the manner in which we extract value from our digitizing is to focus on what customers need, because we do believe that in the long term, that yields a lot of financial value. Can we go to the next slide, Stefan, please? Looks like the 5G issue is giving us a couple of issues. As you can see there, so one of the very first things we had to understand, since we are a global company, we really had to understand the areas in which we operate, because we have a lot of production areas in the USA, we have production areas in South Africa, Europe, as well as China. And our customers are also scattered across the globe. So you really had to kind of understand your distribution channels and make sure you're not only digitizing from operation standpoint, but you digitize across the entire business value chain. Because if you do not do that, then it simply means your products may not necessarily reach your customers at the right time. And that also speaks to kind of collaborating with all your third parties and having a very powerful ecosystems, because we're relying on a lot of shipping companies. And the question is, how do we get insights into their shipping? How can we help them to optimize? How can we help them to make sure the right ship arrives at the right time and leaves the Durban Harbour, for an example, at the right time? So that speaks to the notion of digital is not only about tech. You have to understand business. And if you don't understand business, you'll end up putting together gadgets. And gadgets don't deliver value. What deliver value is making sure your foundations are correct, and digital just helps you to extract that value. Can you go to the next slide, Stefan? I want to run through this thing quickly because we don't have enough time. So Steph, I think there's one slide missing, but we can forget that slide. I think you can take it over here, Stefan, because we actually do not have enough time. I see you already started cutting slides.
Yeah, thank you, Ratile. So I hope people can hear me better now. I'd like to give you an example of how we applied digital solutions for automation in our mining business. And this just gives a bit of a context of the size of the project that we dealt with. So we have 5 mines around the area of Secunda. We have 52 continuous miner machines that we have underground extracting coal, a total of 40 million tons of coal produced per annum. And the graphic on the right gives you a bit of a picture of how much is 40 million tons of coal. So it's 285 meters high and 850 meters in diameter. And if you compare that to the height of the Eiffel Tower, it's a little bit lower than the Eiffel Tower, and probably about 3 times as wide as the Eiffel Tower. So that gives you an idea of how much coal. We have 136 active tags on each of these 52 continuous miners, and a total of 96 gigabyte of data per miner per month that we processed. So this is really looking into the direction of big data. And what we are looking at is to reduce the spend on maintenance on these continuous miner machines, reduce the inventory holding of the sub-assemblies, and increase the cutting time availability of the machines to extract the coal. What we looked at doing here is we have asset health monitoring and prediction algorithms that were built for these continuous miners. And we are now able to pick up anomalies. So it's anomaly detection that we are doing on these continuous miners. And we are able to see when a miner is breaking down. And we can bring that into the predictive and preventative maintenance strategy of the mine itself. The next slide is to give you an idea of the complexity of the environment in which we're working. So that's a picture of the continuous miner, and it's like got 8 sub-assemblies on it in terms of motors and gearboxes and things like that. And the information is then put through our historian into the cloud, and thereafter being, putting through some compute to get through to the algorithms, providing us with the decision support tools. This was developed together with the conditioning monitoring team on the mine. So this is where the user-centered design came in. And the pictures that you see here are screenshots from the actual solution, where it is giving feedback on which of these continuous miners are in good condition, which of them are in orange, and which of them are in red states. And this information is then used by the conditioning monitoring team on the mine to manage the maintenance strategy on these machines. And it's providing us with some very good benefits in terms of producing own coal, reducing purchases from external, and therefore also the environmental footprint of our mining operation, where we do not have to truck coal all the way from Richards Bay up into Secunda to utilize for our gasification. So that is a very high level overview of an automation application that we have developed for our operations in mining. And the next slide is just high level. What are the lessons that we've learned with automation and digital in Sasol? So on the left-hand side, you'll see you need to ask these 5 questions and provide answers to them. So who are you building it for? You must have a customer. There must be a pain point. And that's the reason, why would they care? Why would they care that you're doing something for them? What is it that you're going to develop that will solve that problem? What value would they get from the product that you are going to build? And how do you add value to that? If you can't answer those 5 questions, you need to go back to the drawing board and understand what it is that you need to do. And the points for us that we want to leave with you is that you need to have a clear vision and a mandate for digital and automation in your business. You need to look at building self-managed teams that work in an agile way, have a holistic approach to transformation, and not just little pockets here and there. There must be focused application of effort and resources to deliver the best results. in an agile way, regular and iterative testing, feedback loop, and you have to track the value. If you don't know what value you are adding, you are potentially not going to be successful at the end of the day. So what you measure is what you can manage. And I think overall, that is the summary of the message that we wanted to leave with you today. Thank you, Dave.
Oratile, anything to finish off?
Yeah, I think like I've said in the presentation, so one of the things that I was about to do and we had to cut that short is digitization, in fact, requires, and that's what I wanted to present in the next slide, requires a rewiring of a business. So you need to, every single thing that takes place in the business must be focused on something. And at Sasol, we believe that the right approach, it may not be the best in the world, but it's ours and we believe in it, is that it must have the customer at the center. So if you develop the product, like Stefan asked, who are you developing for? Why should they care? If you're taking a product from one area to the other areas, how long is it going to take it there? What are the best methods for you to take that product from one area to the other? And how do you digitize that process to make sure that the technology can do the heavy lifting? Because we realize a lot of inefficiency sits on the manual work and business processes. So if you digitize that, you are able to extract value quickly. And the major lesson really is that, and this is going to be worse in the future, is that the power in the market has shifted from the suppliers to customers. So in the olden days, we had lots of suppliers, a lot of products, high demand. Now we have a lot of differentiation where customers, in fact, demand what they want to have. If we cannot provide them with a certain product, then they can get it from somebody else. So the competition does not only now lie on the quality of the product, it lies on other dimensions that augment that product. And that's why I think, if you rewire the entire business and not only certain pockets of the business, you stand a lot more chance to be successful. Thank you, Dave. Hopefully that covers that stuff, because I really wanted to give the opportunity to Anna Maria. I think the audiences will appreciate some of her messages as well, because we have 15 minutes and she could go for 10 minutes and we can leave the last 5 minutes for questions and we can take a lot more questions.
Okay, well said, as just like a moderator, so well done, Oratile. Thank you very much, Sasol. I think just before I hand over to Anna Marie, and this is really getting to the hard end of this thing, is that it's all about the data, and it's all about the relevancy of the data, and it's all about the truth of the data. And I think we all understand that slide that says rubbish in equals rubbish out. I'm sure you've dealt with a lot of that in your data lakes and the way you've structured it, and I think we're going to learn a lot of lessons about that approach when it comes to this. So. And again, just popping back to what you said, Oratile, and also Stefan, people only change for two reasons in their lives. People change because they are forced to change through regulation, or if they don't change, they're going to be without a business, or their business is not going to be there. So there are only two motivators, and people are lazy. Right now, we're faced with a problem that if you don't change, you're going to become irrelevant. So this is a tipping point within this entire 4IR discussion, and I think it's really critical. But at the end of the day, if you don't get the plant side right, you're not going to get the other side right. So I'm really looking forward to Anna Marie's presentation, and I'm going to hand straight over to you, Anna Marie.
Thank you so much, Dave. So today I would like to talk to you about data, and I would like to start off by saying what Oratile and Stefan already said, that you need a strategy on data and you need to know where are you going with your company. And into the world today, we hear a lot about data. Data is the new oil, data is the new water, and people just don't know what to do with that. So today I would just like to introduce you to data and take you on a journey that I've been on, and hopefully just give you enough to help you take the next step. So to give you some feedback, I started as a control engineer with Sasol, and my first data related project was in 2008, in fact. And I remember, to be honest with you, that project was just horrible, because I had to take 4 systems and I had to integrate them into each other. I had to do some modeling on them. Obviously, this was done with the help of a team. And I remember that the value add that we had was amazing. When we showed it to people, they were honestly shocked. But I also remember that in terms of infrastructure and architecture and data integrity, we had to literally change every single thing. Obviously, we didn't have the technology that we have today. And what I learned there is a journey that I would like to take you on today. So let's start with something fun. Let's do a poll. So I would like all of you to give me your very honest opinion. Please remember, this is, no one knows it's you. Best is to answer with your instinct. Don't think about it. Okay, so we are a tie. So from my experience, if you answered that you want all of your data, you are typically a technical person who has to solve problems with all of the data, and your motto is give me everything, I will filter it as I need it. And if you're a business person, you will literally take what you can get, as long as you can get all of it. And that is really the mindset that we have to change. Sorry, I just need to click here. So if you have to think about it, to change your data from just being data into insights, you have to rethink your data architecture and also what data you currently have. And to do that, you have to look at the bigger picture and really evaluate what you have and be honest with yourself. So let's take a scenario. When we design something, we build the best thing that our budget can buy. And in this case, I used a robot because everyone can relate with the robot. And the criteria that we usually also do for the system is that it needs to be able to control itself, needs to be autonomous in a way. And this counts for PLCs, SCADA systems. Sometimes we have human interfaces towards it, but in general, it's fairly standalone. It has to, we cater for availability, operability, and reliability. It has to be on-prem preferably because most of us feel it's not safe to take your data anywhere else. And then we also tend to then go and build funny connections into it because the truth is in the original project, we didn't really think about other people needing our data. We just want to control it. When you look at data as an asset, this is the picture you should think of. You should think of an army of robots, preferably not the same robots even, they should all be different. And the information you would want about them is not simply, are they on and off? Yes, that's something you want, but you also would like to know what environment they are in, and that might be an HVAC system, which is a completely different system on another network. The power source, let's say you have solar, that is a completely different system and you want that information. HR, the humans that are part of this robot, they have HR system that are governed with security that you need information from, and then obviously also budgets. And what we are very good at usually is taking each system, the equipment or the environment or the HR, the optimizing that 100%. But a lot of time your true value come in when you start to group them together. To say, let's say, if I can power my robots during the day when the solar panels are working and not while the people are at work, or let them work when people are not at work, that is when you start building models that give you true business value. So this is probably a term that most of you have heard, and it's called big data. So from what we have now talked about, we move on to what we need from data. And data comes at volume, a variety of data, a velocity of data, and a veracity of data. I'm not going to go into this. I'm sure most of you know the concept, as we are used to that. So let's do another poll. I wanted to read it out to you, but I'll give you the opportunity to read it yourself.
Sorry, Anna-Marie, I haven't got that poll ready as a setup one. Apologies for that.
Oh, okay. No, then we'll move on. Okay, so we won't have the poll insights, but what I can tell you is you need to make sure that you look at each aspect as a leader from the questions. So if people tell you that it will make their life easier, it might mean that the people in your organization are ready to consume data at a different level because they're frustrated with it and they know what value they have. If people tell you they don't care, I know how to get my data, you know, you get people who take a USB and go and get their data once a week or whatever they need to do, they do it and they build amazing Excel spreadsheets with their data. That is usually, maybe they just don't know. They don't know that there's a better way of doing it. And then you also unfortunately get people who are ready, but it's not part of their business strategy to move forward with data. Okay, so the most important part from the data world. So why am I telling you all of this? So I should have said this earlier, but within manufacturing and production, engineers are very good at getting data, extracting it, problem solving with it, and also optimizing data. And then we hear there are engineers who move into banking and they work in data and fintech and they have to change their career and we have no idea what they do because the truth is they also work with data. So what are they busy with? And this is sort of what they're busy with. They're busy building a data world that we are currently so good at just building a little silo, but they are building it at a larger scale. And the basic concept of it is extracting the data, transforming it into what you need and loading it into an area that you need it. And I specifically showed you this because as a business leader, if you're embarking on this concept, you need to also look, there's another option that says extract your data, load it raw as raw data, and then transform it. And it might seem like a little thing, but it can cost you a lot of money if you make a mistake in choosing the wrong option for your company. Another concept that you will hear of is called data warehousing or a data lake. And the difference is basically, is it processed data or is it raw data? And again, it can cost you a lot of money if you don't do it correctly. Let me show you why. Because in doing those three actions, this is all of the actions that happen. And these are all of the programs that you can choose from. And I think I'm not showing it to you to hopefully stop you in your tracks and say, well, I can't do this. But just getting the information from multiple sources, you need to transfer the data, you need to process it. And the way you do it and the strategy behind it has to be clear. And I saw in one of the questions that said, you know, the careers are moving so fast in AI. Should we outsource it or what should we do? From personal experience, I can tell you, you need to make sure that if you outsource it, make sure it won't cost you a lot of money. I have a lot of friends who's worked in teams where someone made the decision and it was the wrong decision. So maybe make sure that that's not you. Make sure that you have just at least enough knowledge. Then next, I would like to show you some skills. It's careers basically, or job titles. And I'm not going to go through all of them and explain to you what each one of them does. But when you embark on a data journey, these are typically the people you will see as part of the project teams. And because you work agile, they will come in as needed. It doesn't mean you will see all of them. So you'll have project owners, those of you who understand sponsors, maybe go and read up on what the differences is between all of them. And on a technical field, there's also a lot of them. Please, this is not all of them, but this is definitely new skills that's available out there that people should be looking into that has to do specifically with data. What we've also seen is that these skills don't have specific career paths. So how do you get the job? Well, we do know you need math, statistics, and programming, depending on the type of job that you want. Problem-solving capability will always be a plus point for you. There's a lot of boot camps available on the internet, and then also online training courses and certifications. If you look at companies like Google and Facebook, you don't need higher education to get a job there. You write a test to gain entry. Within South Africa, if you look at these jobs, it usually requests a BSc with maths or statistics or programming, even engineering. So there is a bit of leeway, but in all honesty, it will be a continuous learning path for you for the rest of your life. And it's very exciting. It's a journey that if you love it like me and you're an enthusiast, you won't work a day in your life. That's it from me, guys. Hope I cut it short enough.
Thank you so much. I think a very important aspect of the presentation, and certainly I think what's really exciting about that is we no longer have to follow the formal paths in education anymore. So the opportunities available to the youngsters of the world are enormous from a point of view that you can jump online and learn about digitization, you can learn about analytics, you can learn about AI, you can go and do all of these things, and you don't need to follow a formal path. And I think so the opportunities for youngsters, especially in this world, are going to explode. And I think that's a massive opportunity that we cannot afford to miss out on as well. So, and I agree with you in terms of, to build these skills in-house is one of the questions, is enormously expensive. You still need to understand AI. You still need to understand that it's just modeling. It's just, they algorithms. The technology is getting easier. Microsoft has probably invested $1 trillion in their AI strategy in the cloud. So and those tools are going to get easier. You can feed the data. We can take data from the plant, transform it, get it to the right data, and put it into an IoT hub. From there are tools. Admittedly, it's still complicated. You still need to be a programmer. You still need to have certain skills. But I think in the next 3-5 years, the application of the technology is going to become easier. So the results you'll get will be so much faster and so much cheaper to take advantage of that data that you're going to be building. So certainly, again, the arguments between on-premise, on cloud, I think as we progress and people get clever about this, we made the same mistakes with historians, log everything every second, all day, every day. And at the end of the day, that's a time-based thing where the world is not a linear place. The world is a multi-dimensional place, and you need to be able to farm those relationships, even though they're not clear. And that's the beautiful tools that are coming through in terms of understanding data. So the opportunities for customers to take advantage of this stuff is enormous going forward. And to wrap up, I want to just thank all the panelists. I think it was a fantastic presentation. I think it's going to give customers ideas in terms of the urgency. It's going to give applications guys the hope that there's a future in this place. There's a future going forward in this technology on a global basis. You can farm this out all over the world. The nice thing about this is that you can find applications of the technology as long as you've got it in a place that people can use it. There are a host of people that will draw down on building you the solution that you want as long as you spec it properly. So that's everybody. Thank you very, very much. I know we've got a couple of minutes. I think it's just past 12. Well done, panelists. I was amazed that we got through that in an hour, but well done. And there are some questions and answers that we'd like to get to. I think I'm just looking at the Q&A. Hi there, the sound quality is very poor. We can't solve that problem. It's done. Mark, you'd like to answer Vijay Nandlal's question, which says, with respect to the rollout of the 5G network and automation of production processes, what are the infrastructure upgrades required? And what are the potential job losses, also the potential for reskilling to meet future needs? Mark, if you'd like to answer that one.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Vijay, for your interesting question. Actually, it is two questions. Let me start with the 5G network as such. To start with, I'm not a telecommunications specialist. What I do know is that we need a massive upgrade if we want to install 5G in any country around the world. You are sitting in a different bandwidth. You are sitting on a higher frequency, which per definition means that your cellular, your mesh network will be more dense than the 4G network is today. That is as far as my knowledge goes on the 5G implementation as such. What is also important to understand in the context of the whole 5G discussion is that many companies, and I can imagine that Sasol could be one of them, but many other production environments want to also use 5G in the future in a VPN context, in a virtual private network context for obvious security reasons. And therefore, it is also quite important that South Africa and ICASA in particular takes the regulations a bit more serious. And yes, this is criticism towards ICASA, so that private bandwidth is made available for those companies as well. If a Sasol, if a BMW, even SAB Miller wants to use 5G in their network environment for their manufacturing environment, then they want to buy, they want to lease, whatever the formula is going to be, private bandwidth for their private applications. So I hope that that is an answer to the first part of the question. The second part of the question talks about potential job losses. And I think if I understand your question correctly, Vijay, it's about automation in general, and the fourth industrial revolution and automation are going hand in hand. Is automation going to generate job losses? Well, in some domains, it surely will. But it is a choice that a country like South Africa needs to make. And that's where the skilling, the reskilling and the upskilling comes into the picture, is that we need to understand that South Africa needs to play a role on a global basis. There is global competition, and South Africa needs to be at the forefront of the technological revolution in the continent, in the African continent. So at the end of the day, if we do that in a smart way, and you know that smart is a key word in this whole discussion, then that means that we need to make sure that we regain a position of a global competitor. And I'm talking in general terms. We are surely in some sectors still playing a global role. But to be able to do that, we need to automate, we need to optimize, we need to get better quality output, better manufacturing throughput, etc., etc. And that's where automation kicks in. So at the bottom line, automation is not going to generate job losses. It is going to generate new jobs and new jobs opportunities and more jobs. But we need to do it in the right way. I hope this answers the question. I thank you for that.
Thank you, Mark, as always, very succinctly answered. I see Kay Klaassen has asked, will it not be better for SA to improve so I've lost that one. In fact, improve 3G, 4G infrastructure instead of spending probably much more capital on 5G. In other words, rather get all of SA connected. Well, I think all of SA is connected, whether it's in any form or other, we are connected now. And if we want to take advantage of this and not fall behind the rest of the world, I'm afraid government's got to take the step of allowing the 5G. And if you go to any of the broadband conferences, this argument has been going on for 5 years now, and I think let the big boys fight that out. But I think government through the 4IR commission has certainly recognized that it needs to move, and there are already moves on that. And Mark, maybe you can just answer that just quickly from yours in terms of what you found out at the 4IR presentation.
Well, G, thank you for your question. You make a fair point. I think the answer is twofold. First, we need to have a good, stable and broad bandwidth internet in South Africa. In general terms, whether that is wired or wireless, it doesn't matter. And if I come back to remarks about the sound quality during this session, that all relates to the quality of our internet. If Anna-Marie is talking about handling data, if Sasol is needing that data, then that data needs to be transported via a backbone. And that backbone in South Africa, unfortunately, is not always what it needs to be. And it is not that stable in industrial areas, but it is also not always available in rural areas. And I think if we go back to students that are sitting online for the moment in a rural area environment, they will surely agree with me that their online sessions are not always that pleasant. And I'm even not referring to the fact that you need power to have the internet working, but that's a separate discussion. Now, I think we need to improve the internet network as such in South Africa. That's a given. Now, if I come to 5G, and I called it earlier on also the so-called last mile, that last mile needs to be wireless and needs to be according to those specifications that you have seen from 5G ACIA. That is only going to be possible with 5G. The latency time, the bandwidth, the data volumes that you want to pass via 5G. As I said before, it's not about getting a smarter or a quicker smartphone, sorry, but it's all about handling the data between A and B, the edge computing, machine-to-machine communication, and that's where 5G needs to kick in. So to answer your question in summary, yes, we need a better infrastructure from the internet in general, but we also need that last mile where we want to communicate wirelessly with our manufacturing infrastructure.
Mark, thank you very much. I'm going to pose this one straight at Anna-Marie, which it says, which asked, as a medium-sized company that manufactures industrial products, how would I start looking at getting my data into a managed system that adds value? What is step one?
I think Oratile and Stefan is actually the better people because they build these projects. But the truth is to ask people what are the pain points, where are they struggling to get data, and what is causing you to lose money? Is it your customers? Are you causing internal delays because you don't have accurate data? Do people not trust the data? That is where I would start.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Anybody, Oratile, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, so I mean, in an organization like ours, for an example, at Sasol, one of the major pain points we have in data is that we've got disintegrated systems, and I think that is applicable to a lot more traditional organizations. And what happens with that is that you've got multiple versions of truth, because when you update one system, the other system is not updated, and that discrepancies, gets integrated all the way across into the value chain, eventually into the customer. And that's why sometimes we get a wrong product to a wrong customer, because multiple versions of truth exist in the system. So when it comes to data, you need to make sure your systems are integrated, are aligned, and they're live, and they all have the same version of truth. And you can only do that through integration. You can have multiple pockets of the system that are integrated or one big data lake. But that will also depend on your business fundamentals, because technology does not solve a problem. Understanding your business first will solve a business problem. Technology then helps you to solve that problem. You can go to Amazon and get the big data lake. The customers might end up still not buying your product, but you've got a beautiful data system. So you need to understand first your business, what you want to do, why customers buy your product, how do they buy it, how do they want to buy it, what brings value. And then you start from there. To me, that's always the first point, and not technology. So my proposition is you gotta be opportunity centered or pain point centered, and not technology centered, because now you're going in reverse. You are going to take technology and you want to force feed it in a specific context. And it's a lot more easier if you understand the context first, and then technology just help you to extract that value. Same applies with data, and that's how we're dealing with data problems now at Sasol. Once we kind of live, same version of truth across different pockets of data systems, our customers get to be happy at the end of the day, and they continually buy our products.
Stefan?
Dave, nothing further to add on that. I've been busy answering questions in the chat and in the question and answer, so happy with the answers that Anna-Marie and Oratile gave.
Thank you. I think, again, it comes down to that. If you're trying to solve a process problem, it's generally going to be a less dimensional problem. And so you can move into the time-based scenarios with a bit of, but you still cannot ignore the fact that even a process problem is a multi-dimensional problem. And so historians just don't cut it anymore. You've got to look at it multi-dimensionally and add those other factors from the business perspective in terms of trying to solve the problem. So if you're sourcing ingredients from various suppliers, you'd better know which suppliers are going into the mix at any one point in time to be able to manage the quality coming out the other side. So it's a multi-dimensional problem, and it goes back to Peter Vergeer's question: is should focus in factory be on procuring ready-made solutions and adapting them, or developing of your own solutions? That's a tough question. I think you need to understand the problem first that you're trying to solve, and I think that's key to that question. There's no easy answer to that. I think the in-plant stuff is generally by suppliers of your automation equipment, but the moment you want to solve a problem, you've got to go across disciplines and at least get your data, one version of the truth in the plant as a feed into another system that is going to give you these analytics and the results that you want. So hopefully I can answer that question from my perspective.
Dave, maybe a last comment on that. Something I've learned as well is that if the bigger hammer doesn't solve your problem anymore, then the problem is typically electrical.
Okay. Well, I think on that, if there are no other questions, guys, I think there's some other questions, but I think they're a little bit too specific. I think on that score, I'm going to call it to an end. We're quarter of an hour over. First of all, thank you to Creamer Media. Thank you to SAIMC. Thank you to our panelists for taking your time. This doesn't just happen. I know we've spent quite a lot of time on this ourselves. Again, and more importantly, thank you to the guys who dialed in. Hope you learned something. Certainly I did. And my takeaway from this before I wrap up and ask the panelists just to give us their one-liner is there are equal opportunities. It might be daunting, but you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And I think that's key here. So maybe just wrap up quickly from the top, Mark, one sentence. And I know that's difficult for you. You may want to unmute. Okay, that's enough. That's your question. You want to unmute?
Okay. Thank you, Dave, for those kind words. Again, from my side, a very warm thank you for all the participants. I can always repeat what I said before. The train has left the station. South Africa needs to get on there. This country has great opportunities, great potential. We need to move it forward, and let's make that all together working. We are a resilient bunch of people. I learned in the last couple of years. I love it here, and let's make something nice out of it.
Thank you, Mark. And I don't think any of us can disagree with you. Stefan?
Thanks, Dave. My advice would be start from a customer back point of view. So understand what your users need and build something that they would get value from.
Thank you. Oratile?
Yeah, digitization is very hard. So you've got to build an aeroplane while it's flying. And for you to be able to do that, you need special skills, and you can only go agile. I don't see how you can digitize without adopting or any of the agile frameworks. So please, maybe it may be a good idea to start investing on agile and understanding how those frameworks work. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna-Marie?
I would say that we are in a very exciting time. Technology is developing at a very high pace. Make sure you have your strategy correct. Like Oratile said, don't base all of this on a certain type of technology, and also just get some basic data literacy so that you at least know what you're getting into when you embark on this journey.
Thank you. Thank you to the panelists. So I think certainly my takeaways from this is define a problem, find a pain point, not necessarily a process pain point, find a business pain point and drive it from there. So define the problem, and you will find 100 people to bring a solution, whether it's a supplier, whether it's a consultant, whether it's, but again, get it right, get the data side right, and the rest will come relatively easy. And I say that with a pinch of salt, of course. So thank you very much, panelists, and thank you for joining us, guys, in the field.
Thank you, everyone.